not a bad thing that I come from a different kind of community that has something in common with rural and industrial communities around the country. Any kind of community, even neighborhoods in very urban centers, that have that experience of young people growing up the way I did, taking on board the message that success has something to do with getting out of your hometown. That the only way to make something of yourself is to leave. And that's what I did, only to realize when I finally came back that the purpose and the meaning that I had traveled around the world to try to find in my studies and in my early career was actually to be found right around where I'd been living and making my community a better place. And at a moment when we're being sold a vision from this White House and this president that has us looking for greatness in all the wrong places, this idea that we can stop the clock and deal with change by turning back to the past. I believe people need to hear the stories of communities like ours, an auto industry town that was written off as dead at the beginning of this decade and is now growing for a whole bunch of reasons in a whole bunch of new ways. What it shows you is that there can never be an honest or constructive politics that revolves around the word again. And instead, people need to know that in order for us to grow, we need to recognize the level of change that's going on around us. You can't promise to stop change. The change is coming, whether we're honest about it or not. I believe the changes we're living through right now are tectonic. Even now, we're probably underreacting because we're living at one of those moments that only rolls around every half century or so, where the terms of our political and economic and social life are shifting beneath our feet. And that can be a frightening thing, but it can also be an empowering thing. The era that is about to begin could be the best one America has seen yet. But in order to make it so, we have to recognize that what's at stake in this election is not just 4 years of the next presidency, but setting the terms for what the era that the rest of my life is going to be spent in is going to look like. And speaking of that, that's the other thing that I know makes my candidacy a little non-traditional. The fact that I haven't got to my 40th birthday yet. And yet it's largely for that reason that I'm stepping forward. It's based on the idea that a new generation of leaders needs to be putting forward leadership at the highest level in American politics. After all, the longer you're planning to be here, the more you have to lose if the decisions aren't made right. My generation, we're about to recognize the 20th anniversary of the Columbine school shooting. I was in high school when that happened. We grew up with school shootings as the norm. We're going to spend the rest of our lives with climate change happening to us, whether we acknowledge it or not. And we're on track to be the first generation in U.S. history to be worse off than our parents if nothing is done to change the economic trajectory of this country. So it stands to reason, as is happening in countries around the world, that there is value in a generational alliance, people of every generation and every age saying that what we care about most is making sure the future is better than the past. And I believe part of that is offering up leaders from a new generation for the American presidency and every other part of our politics and our society. So that's what I'm up to.